Hello and welcome to today's and beyond development update and community Q&A session. I am Adam Bradford, the product director for D&D Beyond. Welcome back. This is our first weekly version of this technically because I did one last week, but this is the first time I'm coming back the following week. So we're going to try this format out a little bit. We got a lot of questions that go unanswered many of these months, so we're going to see if we can get to all of the questions. And we're also going to get into some more interesting, fun things that maybe we don't typically have time for. So speaking of that, let's talk about what today's lineup is going to be. We're going to start with the latest updates. And really most of that has been what we call winter cleaning around here a little bit. But I do want to talk about the work that is happening and how important it is a little bit. And then we're going to do a homebrew spotlight. So I asked on Twitter for some submissions, and we've selected a handful of those. There are many, many, many good ones. We can't get to all of them today. We'll continue to do this, week after week. We'll do this at least occasionally. And take a look at some of the great content that's being created out there in the community. But in the short term, today we're going to talk about a handful of the homebrew that was submitted through Twitter. And then I've got a data update. So it is the holiday season, and many people receive gifts and all kinds of doodads and knickknacks over the holidays. And so we're going to talk about the knickknacks of D&D magic items with our data update today. Should be a lot of fun. Some interesting things have happened with that. And then, as always, talk about what's in progress. We're going to give you a very early look at some wireframing that we're currently doing with the Encounter Builder to kind of give you a little bit of a peek into the process of how the development goes, and especially the conceptualization of what we're trying to build with the Encounter Builder. And then talk about anything else that is upcoming, which will be the things that we are not currently doing, but we are doing next. And then finally, we will round up any questions that have been going on throughout at the very end. I am going to stop along the way in the different sections to let you ask context-specific questions that seemed to work pretty well last week, so we will try that again this week. And then anything that's more general or not as specific, we'll cover at the end. So you can start asking those questions now, but preface it with the word question in chat, where Lauren Oboe Crazy Urban can help us get those compiled and get those to me. All right, let's jump in. So, latest updates. We've got cogs going on over here on the imagery today, because during the end of the year, one of the things that has always been a really important goal for Curse in general, but also for the DDB team, is to try to take a look at some of the tech debt that we have potentially accumulated throughout the year. Now, we try to be lean, and we try to produce as much quality code and architecture as we possibly can throughout the year. But as with any organization, sometimes this starts to pile up with what is called tech debt. And so if you're familiar with debt in any form, that is something that you don't want to just let it accumulate and get bigger and bigger and bigger until you have to eventually pay it, because sometimes that price is too high. So we really value trying to make sure that tech debt is kept at a very, very low level, because D&D Beyond is going to be around for years and years and years, and we have got to make sure that this thing remains scalable, and that as we get just so many, hundreds of thousands of users coming in, thousands every day, we need to make sure that the tool set and that this game companion is going to work for all the new people coming in, and that as we continue to add more and more functionality, that we are adding that on top of a very, very strong foundation. And so, for instance, something that you can see that we've done here within the last month is we've reduced the average response time for web pages to load. And so that's what's going on in this probably pretty confusing chart down here. But we use some analytic tools to help us gauge these kinds of things. And so when you're going to a web page on D&D Beyond, you're able to see in this chart that while throughput, which is the number of people that are visiting the pages, is actually increasing, you're seeing that the average response time is decreasing, which is a really good thing. And again, as we have more and more that we're adding to D&D Beyond, we can't have it to where this one little piece takes this many milliseconds, this other piece takes this other number of milliseconds, because all that's going to just add up and up and up, and that's going to make the website kind of a slog, and we don't want that to happen. And so a lot of the work that we're currently doing is just making sure, again, that the foundation is as strong as we can make it, especially as we head into 2019 and we have more and more things that are going to start happening as we're adding more and more resources to the team. So wanted to give a little bit of a peek at that. I know that this is not the really, really exciting thing for the community to hear, but we want to be very transparent that all of this activity that's going on right now is a requirement. It is very necessary for us to do the things that the community is really going to love on the other side of that. We're going to do a little bit of a homebrew spotlight. So I need to come over here and find somewhere. We have got to have, oops, that's not what we want. Let's get that out of here. Let's see. Give me 1 second. We're trying to find some of this homebrew. I thought I had it put in the right place, but obviously I do not. All right, here we go. Found it. So thanks to Lauren, we've got some of this put aside here. All right. What is happening here? That's interesting. All right, here we go. All right, let's make sure that everybody's seeing this though first.
Yeah,
I think we've got it. We've got it. All right, we've got the sacrifice domain for clerics, and this is by, let's see, where is my username? We not have that on here. Interesting. What is this version? We have an older version of it here too. So we have the sacrifice domain, and this is incredible because I am seeing on here, unless I am just missing it, that we don't see on the details page who created this. So this is something that needs to be added to the list immediately. We need to make sure that we're showing who created this item here on the list. Let's try to get a little bit of help out with this, maybe even from chat. All right, so sacrifice domain. Let's see. Let me see who this is. Let me do this off the screen for a second, just in case. We don't want any crazy things showing up here. Sacrifice domain. We're going to make sure, I want to make sure that folks get credit for this is the main thing. All right, so under characters and classes. All right, so it looks like it is Captain Obvious. Captain Obvious. So of course, that when I go on that journey, that is coming from Captain Obvious with the sacrifice domain. So we got the sacrifice domain, and it's for cleric who focuses on interceding their very existence for their allies. So it's adjacent to the life domain, but it is it's a little bit different, and I really like the subtle nuance here offered by the flavor of the sacrifice domain. But you have a very very solid set of spells that you see here. And some of the abilities here, Penitent Vitality. So your hit point maximum increases. So this is a tougher version of a cleric, which I actually like quite a bit. Lifeline, you can use a bonus action to form a bond with an ally. And whenever that ally takes damage, you can use your reaction to reduce that damage. So it's a really, really nice mechanic, especially utilizing the bonus action for the setup and the reaction to be able to sacrifice some of your own health for that ally to be protected. And then penitence, you can use channel divinity to punish yourself in atonement to heal your ally's damage. So you're sacrificing your own health for your ally to be able to gain health. So again, this is a really interesting take on. It's like a life domain cleric, but there's also that kind of sacrificial atonement kind of angle to this. So this was one that really stuck out and that I liked a lot in the thing. So you guys be sure to check that out. Hopefully we can. Oh, we need to zoom. Need to zoom. How's that? Are we able to see that a little bit better? All right. So sacrifice domain. We're all in here. So control zoom. Here we go. So again, with this one, hopefully we can get the link to this one shared in chat so you guys can check this one out yourself. Be a really cool one there. So then the next one that we can cover, let's take a look. We've got the Hidden Blade. All right, I think this one's going to come in at the proper zoom level already. So the Hidden Blade is by Alex Hanbury. And in this one, this is a background. And so I love backgrounds in 5th edition, especially because backgrounds really help you to flesh out the character. And for you, it helps to just shore up, especially skill proficiencies that you feel like your character might can have. I saw a question come through Twitter yesterday. I think I randomly saw this. One of my friends, B Dave, he put out a question and he was asking several of the Wizards of the Coast staff of how would you do the classic fighter, mage, thief, like combination of things. And I saw a response, and I believe it might have been Mike that said this, that he would do a fighter Eldritch Knight with the criminal background. And I think that is a really good picture of how useful backgrounds can be in 5th edition, because they can help shore up that part. They can make that character feel like a thief without having to take class levels in something. So for the Hidden Blade, we get, you can choose 2 skills, which is a nice take on this as well. So you can choose the skills. Now, the way that backgrounds work is you can customize background, and you can actually end up with any 2 skill proficiencies you'd like, but the backgrounds typically help funnel that in a story-driven direction, which is a great thing. And then you can choose tool proficiencies here. The Hidden Blade trade, so you can talk about what you used to do, as part of this background. And then the feature is really a good one. So you're a person of many talents, but one of the finest is your ability to be linchpin in many different circles of influence. So people come to you with secrets and information. You're well connected enough to know who to pass it on to or where to put the information to use. One of the reasons that I like this background feature so much is because I'm a fan of any background feature that allows the dungeon master to have a way to facilitate the story even more. And so one of the things in my own games that I've observed over the years is that unless you have just the exact right mix of players, there's always going to be that moment where the players need to look for information and they're not exactly sure what the best path is to find that information. So I like this background feature because it allows a dungeon master to have a very background-driven reason that they can divulge information. And it also gives the dungeon master an opportunity to introduce some potentially new NPCs into the game. So that was Alex Hanbury. Thank you for that one. Let's take another look at, let's see, what's next? Oh, this looks like a magic item. Let's see how this goes. So the Lexicon lenses are by, I don't know how to say this username really, Gruyur, Gryuhr. But the Lexicon lenses are a wondrous item, a rare wondrous item, that it requires attunement by a creature wearing the lenses and reading for a majority of a long or short rest. I like this attunement mechanic as well. So we've got flavor text here. Again, hopefully the links are going up in chat. Let's see. I think they are. Yeah, here they're going up in chat, so you guys can check this out yourselves as well. But basically, they can magically store and display hundreds of pages of text, allowing for really rapid searching and reading. So this is essentially allowing you to read a tome and more or less have the internet in your glasses. And so I really I think this is a very unique item. I think that it is a really good way for again, you know, you have the keen mind feat, for instance, that will allow you to kind of remember anything. You have this photographic memory. I think that's a good mechanic. But this is another way to help players that it really cracks me up in our Heroes of the Veil game. Shelly Mazanoble plays Flapper, and she says all the time that her character has bird brain. And one of the reasons that her character has bird brain is she jokes about, you know, she might not remember a detail that happened, 2 sessions ago, and that's a perfectly valid story reason for that to occur. Well, these glasses would be a really good way, again, for a character to be able to retain that knowledge and the DM to be able to supply that. All right, maybe 1 or 2 more here. Let's see what we got. Okay. This one ought to be interesting too. All right, so it looks like the Fork of Bees by Monstrosity Jones. The Fork of Bees. We have some artwork with this one too, which I really appreciate. So the Fork of Bees has 3 charges, and it regains 1d4 minus 1 charges daily at dawn. As an action, you can yell bees and expend a charge to summon a swarm of bees, and you can use the statistics for the swarm of wasps from the monster manual. So I wanted to include this one because I'm not exactly sure why it's a fork, first of all. And I just really like bees. So this was one of the more unique entries that we had here. And I wanted to share this one with everybody. And I absolutely adore the artwork over there. I kind of want one of those created and made for my desk in my office here. All right. And then lastly, this is one that has been very popular since the advent of D&D Beyond, which is really important, and that is the time domain. And again, I've got to see exactly who this is to make sure that we've got that we credit this. But with the time domain, this one was very popular as well with the community. Lots of people saying that this was one that we needed to check into. And I've actually read this one before. Let me see. All right, trying to get some help maybe with the... Hold on, I'll zoom back in a second. I can't see anything on this other screen. All right, so glasses. There we go. All right, so... Okay, so this is the time domain, and it is from Gaius Octavian Alere. let's make sure that I said that right. Gaius Octavian Alere did the time domain. We're going to pull that over here. So I think it's pretty obvious that this is a pretty popular concept, the time domain. And so this is an example where in D&D Beyond you can, adjust a subclass, you can create a subclass that is really filling a very specific niche in your campaign. And so Gods of Time, could potentially have this time domain. I played a character one time a long time ago that actually had a version of the time domain because he was serving. One of my favorite things in World of Warcraft was going back into the caverns of time and doing those dungeons and raids there. And so I think that this domain really does appeal to a lot of people. You can see the spell selection is really. I like the way that it's thinking about the spell selection, and I like the fact that with this spell selection, you can really do a lot of interesting flavors. So Expeditious Retreat, you might typically think of that as I cast a spell and I move really, really fast, but you can also flavor that as I cast the spell and I slow down time around me and I'm moving normally, but everything around me is moving slower. Same thing with Featherfall. So I think there's some really good flavor in the spell selection here, and especially with something like Legend Lore. I think that that's an interesting one. That typically you cast that spell, you receive this magical answer from the cosmos out there, and perhaps you're actually receiving that answer because you've at least mentally taken a jaunt back through time and asked someone who knew. So that kind of flavor is really, really good in any kind of creation like this. All of the class features that tie into this are really well thought out. So this is definitely a very highly rated bit of homebrew out there, and I encourage you guys with the link there to also check that one out because again, this one's good, and you should check it out. And if you have somebody in your game that wants to play Doctor Who inspired type character, or a variety of other things from literature, this would be a good call. All right, so that's what we wanted to talk about with Homebrew today. We really are just trying to expose you guys to interesting or well thought out homebrew, even if it is just to spark some kind of idea, some kind of inspiration for you to do this in your own game. So, you might think that there are some other ways to do a time domain, and that's great. You can go and make that, and you can use that in your game. But if you browse the homebrew section on D&D Beyond, there is no shortage of inspiration there, and we'll continue to show some of these off in the weeks to come. All right. Any questions about homebrew or anything else at this point in time? So we can collect a few questions perhaps. It looks like we've already got one of these. So Jive BK ask, are homebrew character sheets for export something that will be considered? There are a lot of great custom sheets being developed by the community. So the answer to that is yes, it's definitely being considered. It's something that is not able to be prioritized at this point in time, but it is something that is certainly being considered. And our hope is that we are able to provide character statistic information in the future where you can just simply, target and map that to existing PDFs. So that's a down the road thing that we want to do, but it is absolutely something that we would like to see is custom character sheet export formats for your characters. And then Fatui, I think is maybe how you say that. When will it be possible to make ammunitions based homebrew items? That's certainly on the list as well. We've talked about this one before, that we've got that. We also have base weapons. I think that we're probably going to go ahead and allow that to be a thing at some point in the future, and I imagine that we will get into that in the next year here for sure. Let's see, Cyberwolf 1201. Are the race groupings for Homebrew going to be expanded, supported going forward? I noticed the Ravnica races aren't included in the group. To be honest, that's probably oversight at this point, and we should get that updated. So I think that we probably have some product managers and some developers out there watching the stream here, and hopefully they're frantically taking notes on that. But yeah, that seems more like an oversight than anything intentional there. Conan 920. Any plans to allow weapon modifications such as damage/element type? Weapon modifications. I'm not exactly certain what the question's intended at. Perhaps asking if you can change base damage types on weapons or items. And I believe that you can already do damage type replacements as part of the modifier system. So if that's not what you're asking, then I may need to dig in a little bit more. But if it is what you're asking, it's a little bit confusing. Our modifier system's a pretty advanced part of the site. But there is, as far as I'm aware, a replace damage type modifier that you should be able to use in Homebrew items. All right, any other questions about Homebrew specifically? All right, we'll move forward for now then, I think. Let's see. Oh, we got one more. I'll do this one and then we'll move on. Lords2424, is there a ranking system for Homebrew class, background, and other Homebrew stuff like what's popular? So yeah, let's take a look at that. Let's see how this is going to look. This is pretty zoomed in, but we'll keep it there where people can see. For Homebrew, you can go and let's just browse the Homebrew feats. So we're going to browse Homebrew feats. You can see here that there is a rating column on the sheet or on the page itself. And so you can sort by rating. And doing that means that the, currently, as far as feats go, the ventriloquist feat, it has been rated very highly. And this one seems really intriguing to me as well. So you can increase your charisma score by 1. This is great because there is a major dearth of feats out there that you can select that give you a +1 to your charisma while giving you other benefits as well. So I actually automatically like this one. You can speak without moving your lips. That is creepy and very interesting for a role-playing game. And then you can throw your voice when you speak, making it appear to originate from any source that you can see within 20 feet of you. So lots of really good flavor on this feat. I can see why it would be rated pretty highly. I'm going to rate it there myself. So being able to rate is also here in the listing. It's just a simple up and down vote, and you're able to do that right from there. So yeah, rating is a big part of the Homebrew system, and I encourage you folks to go out there and rate the things that you like, because that's going to help with the discoverability. All right, we're going to stop for there with the with that on the Homebrew Spotlight, and then we're going to talk a little bit about magic items. This is going to be a fun one. So we're going to look at the popularity of magic items first. And some of this is a little surprising, some of it not at all, which is typically the case when we look at this data. But first, we're going to look at magic items added. So these are magic items that are selected on the character sheet by active characters. And you can see that the greater potion of healing is very popular. I can't imagine why that would be added that frequently. And of course, the good old standby, the bag of holding, is a must have for any adventurer out there. So the bag of holding is represented very highly. The ring of protection is a popular choice, as is the cloak of protection. Someone asked me the other day why people cared about those items. And I think that people don't understand mathematically how important it is to get a +1 to your armor class. It actually is mathematically very powerful to get a +1 to your armor class in the bounded accuracy that is 5th edition. So I can see why those items would also be important. Boots of Elvenkind, dagger +1. So daggers are the most, when we looked at this several months ago, daggers are the most chosen weapon. And so it makes sense that the +1 version of that would also follow with magic items. Bracers of defense are popular. This is what every barbarian and monk and potentially, spellcaster wants to see. Elven chain shields are popular, as are long swords. And then we finally get to the Cloak of Elvenkind. Ring of Mind shielding was interesting for me that it's that popular, but I think that it's maybe a little bit easy to get, and apparently people just love keeping secrets from their own party members. So this is the distribution of popularity of magic items that have been added to a character. And then we'll also look at magic items attuned. So you see here, if an item requires attunement, how popular are they? We've got the ring and the cloak of protection represented, as are the bracers, of course. Cloak of Elvenkind, that ring of mind shielding. So then you get into gauntlets of ogre power, bracers of archery, ring of spell storing. I like that one quite a bit, actually. That one's incredibly useful. I'm not sure what DMs are doing out there, but apparently the robe of the Archmagi is pretty well represented here. That is a pretty powerful item, and I'm surprised that it's being chosen that frequently. But yeah, this is the picture of the popularity for any magic items that require attunement. So then let's look at magic items added by rarity to see what is most popular with the various tiers of rarity. So we have a first level spell scroll, makes sense. A lot of handiness there. We've got Potion of Climbing. That's a good one too, especially if you know that you're about to have to do that in that adventure session. The Bead of Nourishment. So again, a lot of these are going to be consumable in this. You've got a cantrip spell scroll. An unbreakable arrow has become very popular. And of course, some of the very interesting flavor varieties of common magic items have taken on some prominence from, I guess that was Xanathar's Guide to Everything that introduced those. So the Cloak of Billowing, that's a very important item. The Charlatan's Die is actually a really, really good one, so we see that as well here. With uncommon items, you see that Potion of Healing Greater is definitely added more than anything else. The Bag of Holding is an uncommon item. Cloak of Protection is as well. And then you have Boots of Elvenkind, that +1 dagger. So it makes sense that the uncommon items are also some of those that are represented the highest overall, because typically in a game, if you get a magic item, uncommon is going to be the first place that you're going to have that item come in from. So then when we go up to rare, here's our Ring of Protection, Bracers of Defense. But then Elven Chain, a Superior Potion of Healing, again a Dagger of Venom, Ring of Spell Storing, Glamored Studded Leather. See, I'm not sure about Glamored Studded Leather. I'm really confused why this is a rare item, to be honest. But apparently some people like to wear armor, but then act like they're not wearing armor. And for me, as someone who likes to play characters that wear a lot of armor, it just does not compute. The Amulet of Health, the Cloak of Displacement, is a very powerful item. So you can see the distribution here for rare. And we're getting more and more rare with the very rare. So a ring of regeneration, that's a powerful item, but it is chosen most frequently. A shield +3, that's a great decision. Here's our dagger again. The Manual of Quickness of Action and the Tome of Leadership and Influence and the Tome of Understanding and the Manual of Bodily Health. So the stat increase books are chosen very frequently when it comes to very rare items. And then you see that after those are chosen, you get into some of the more popular weapons as well, like longbows. And then finally, you get into some shields and the wand of the war mage. That's a great item. I love a good ring of telekinesis, so that one is also popular. Legendary. So studded leather armor is the most popular equipped armor in the game as far as all the data that we have on D&D Beyond. And so it's no surprise that studded leather +3 would be the most popular with legendary items. Belt of Storm Giant Strength, that's a good one as well. And here's our Staff of the Magi and the Robe of the Arch Magi. So that robe is legendary, but we saw a few screens ago that it was also represented as, in the top 20 of most added items. And so the question for me, I guess, is, are people adding that item just as a wish list, or are they actually getting that item? So the Robe of the Archmagi is here as well. And then plate +3, some of the very powerful items, Rings of Invisibility. You see that, Vorpal sword might be a little bit higher, but we did look at this individually. So an individual item like the Vorpal longsword, the Vorpal greatsword you see are on here. And then we also have some Holy Avengers. And finally, the Deck of Many Things, which, again, in the show Heroes of the Veil that we're playing through right now, the Deck of Many Things has a really big place of prominence. And it looks like this entire campaign is going to be concerning the Deck of Many Things. But either way, if you have played with the Deck of Many Things before, I don't know why you would have the Deck of Many Things added to your character sheet. This is a campaign killer typically. The Deck of Many Things has genuinely killed so many of my campaigns in the past. But what I can say is they typically tend to go out with quite the bang. So maybe it is worth it. And then finally for artifacts. Now this one is going to be fairly heavily skewed, and we certainly recognize that, because out of artifacts, the only artifact that is available as part of the free basic rules content is the Orb of Dragonkind. And so it makes a lot of sense that it would be chosen the most. It also is a pretty powerful item. But then you do have behind that the Axe of the Dwarvish Lords. So that's a good one. We've got the Ring of Winter. So this is something coming from an adventure that's getting chosen, represented very, very well also. And this Axe of the Dwarvish Lords, I've got a character that is going to be wielding that in. So tomorrow we are going to have a huge 12-hour D&D session here in our office. And so we're going to be building out the entirety of the Dungeon of Doom Dwarven Forge set. And we're going to be playing through it. And it is the finale of the campaign that, technically started D&D Beyond back when I was trying to recruit people to the cause, got them playing in what was Hoard of the Dragon Queen into Rise of Tiamat. And we have not been able to play for a while because we've all gotten a lot of busyness and getting pulled in a lot of different directions. But we're coming back for the epic conclusion tomorrow. And we're really excited about that. So this is kind of called the Reign of Tiamat at this point, where Tiamat has taken over the entirety of the Sword Coast while the party was stuck in the Shadowfell for 5 years. And so they came back to this horrible post-apocalyptic nightmare where Tiamat won. And so they are going to be going through her new lair, which is in Waterdeep now, and trying to vanquish Tiamat once and for all. They're all 20th level characters. They all have any artifact that they want. They all have 2 legendary items. They have everything that they want because they're going to need it. And so we're really excited about playing that tomorrow. But the Axe of the Dwarvish Lords is going to be one of the things that one of the characters has. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this look at magic items. Do we have any questions specifically about this data or just magic items in general? So when I said that about the 12-hour session, I've now lit up over here with requests to be able to play in that tomorrow. Space is limited. I apologize. All right. Any questions? All right. So looks like those are the homebrew. I'm not sure if we've got any about magic items. All right. So no questions, no worries. If you guys have anything on that, just paste that into the chat and we'll try to cover that at the end. All right. So in progress. So let's talk about the short-term roadmap and what we are currently doing. So as I shared at the beginning of the stream, platform health and maintenance is something that's really important to us, especially this last month of the year. So we're reducing tech debt to ensure scalability going forward. We are still working on the site navigation mega menus. I showed those off a couple of months ago. We're making progress there. I imagine we're going to see that pretty early in 2019. And then the encounter builder is something that we are working on. And I want to kind of go through what we're currently working on with the encounter builder, which is we're certainly getting some back-end framework architecture in place and getting everything ready to go. But we also, I have to put this disclaimer on everything, in progress design, not final, because I'm sure that somebody's going to look at this picture and see that a whole bunch of gray boxes are our final design for something, but you never know. So I've disclaimered it. But we are wireframing and conceptualizing how this encounter builder is going to start taking shape. And so as we're doing this, I've told you before that we plan to get this out into alpha very, very early for the community to start giving us feedback where we can incorporate that feedback early and often. And so this is kind of where our head's at right now for how that alpha might look. And again, if you're a subscriber on D&D Beyond, you're going to have access to the alpha. You're going to be able to use this, right out of the gate. But the concept that we're going with is we've got some filtering type information on the left side. So this is where, and again, these filters aren't even final, but it's just giving you giving us, especially with the wireframe, an idea of, how that's going to lay out, how the flow is going to work. And so we're going to go into, monster type, environment, sources, all these kind of filters over here, challenge rating, whether it's legendary or not. We've got some other options potentially over there. And then in this central area, you're going to have the consideration for your party. So you're going to be able to pull in just any of your campaigns that you currently have, or you'll be able to, if you see kind of what we're thinking right now, if you see this last little section, I don't even know if my mouse shows up. Does my mouse show up? I don't think it does. Okay, so with that, this section here, you can say that your average party level is 6 and that they're, right now it says 1 person in your party, but 4 people in your party. So all of that will be there at the top of the center. And then everything that you see, once you get these filters in place, this listing in the center is going to have all the information. You can see that we don't even have the column names in place yet because we're trying to make sure that we have the most useful information that we possibly can there. So we're going to have a starting point, and then we're going to get feedback from the community. But you're going to be able to expand the monsters right here in line, just like you can from the monsters listing. You'll be able to see all the details you might want to see. And then finally, when you're ready to add that monster to the campaign, you can click the plus sign here. You can drag and drop that monster over here into a right sidebar, and then the right sidebar is going to give you all the actual information about the encounter itself. So we got a lot of interesting things planned for this, where you can have your easy to deadly kind of scaling over here. That's going to show you here very quickly and easily at the top. You could just completely randomize an encounter. You could say that I have 6 first level characters, which I actually think is what this is doing in the center. That makes more sense. So you've got 6. Average party level is first level, and so with those, I could come over here and I could place some filters, and I could say that I need this to be an Underdark encounter. You could come over here and again, these are targets that we're going for, but you'll be able to randomize that, and it will give you a balanced per the kind of encounter you want it to be encounter. So this would be really, really helpful if you have to pull an encounter out very, very quickly because the party went where you didn't think they were going to go. This is a good way to do this, but you can build your encounter. You can even randomize specific parts of the encounter. So maybe you like most of the creatures it gave you, but then it's going to ask you to you can randomize just one creature within the encounter. We want to get to the point. Whoops. I thought I could scroll down the page. I can't do that. So as you're going down here, we are even trying to think through some suggested creatures that we can start throwing your way. So this is a very early look at some wireframing that we've started to do with the encounter builder. We're very excited to start getting into this. Are there any questions about the encounter builder? I might not be able to answer all these yet because, to be honest, we might not know the answer to some of these. But any questions about the encounter builder while I get a drink? All right. Kit Kat Cosplay. I like that name. How do I get on the beta for the encounter builder? So I want to be really clear with some of our terminology here. I understand you're probably just saying beta just because you're used to saying that, but we really do consider what is going to be publicly available first, available to a small subset of the public first as an alpha. Like, this is super, super early stuff, but the way that you can get involved from the get-go with the alpha is if you are a D&D Beyond subscriber at all, hero tier or master tier. If you're an active subscriber, you can be included in that alpha. And we're doing that primarily because we want to make sure that the feedback we're getting here is coming from very invested users that really, really care about the product, that and that are really engaged with the product, because we want to try to use that to help us filter out some of the noise that we might get. BNAA UK, maybe. Will the encounter builder work with homebrew monsters? Yes, absolutely. There's no scenario where it would not. Fatui, will this have initiative tracker for enemies and players? And will you be able to pre-roll for enemies and groups or by enemy depending on your needs? So I can answer that this will definitely have this at some point, initiative tracking and everything that you're discussing there. But I am certainly not promising this is going to be the first thing that you see. But yes, the intent is for it to have that. Caffeinated Smug. What program is that wireframe made in? Probably Sketch. I think that our designers typically use Sketch for these kind of things. Illuminated Incorporated, Inc. Will you have the ability to add legendary actions to otherwise normal enemies, like giving a goblin legendary resistance if making it a goblin king? So you can currently do that through our homebrew system. You can pull down a copy of a goblin. You can add, abilities to it. You can mark it as legendary. So you can certainly do that through the homebrew system. There will not be a way out of the gate in the encounter builder for you to do that on the fly. But what you're actually talking about is a monster builder, which will come after the encounter builder gets into a good place. So that is something that you should be able to do at some point in the future. Kriegmeister Master. Is there going to be an option to build random encounter tables with this? That is not currently planned for the encounter builder itself. We are looking for some ways to get to provide some tools to allow you to have customizable rollable tables, but it would not be a part of this. Agent Prometheus, will we be able to build encounters and save them for future sessions? Yes, absolutely. That is the intent. So the output of this is actually just section 1, page 1 that you're seeing in this wireframe right now. We will, in fact, have another section that you can go to after this. So, after you get kind of the skeleton of the encounter in place, will allow you to customize the creatures. We're going to allow you to provide notes for the encounter. So these would be things that would help somebody that's running the encounter to know, like, hey, here are the things that you need to know to run this encounter. So you'll have notes. Our current intent, again, I don't know which part of this will come out and when this will come out into any of our alpha or beta testing, but we intend to have treasure parcels and all of that you can attach to the encounter as well. Let's see. And so once that encounter exists, the idea is that you can use it for whatever you need it for in the future. Also, official sources, if you purchase those, will already have all the encounters pre-built for any published adventure. So you won't have to do any of that work. Let's see. Mighty Samson. Keeping track of enemy hit points. The intent is yes. That's kind of the bare minimum of what we have to provide for you to be able to keep track of the monsters for the encounter. Alt F4 will help. Most of the time it doesn't. Encounter rewards. Are there plans to have a way to throw together appropriate and thematic encounter rewards based on the encounter, the environment, or maybe even a custom set of criteria? So I'd need to know what you mean by thematic encounter rewards, but if you're talking treasure, then yes, the idea is we want you to be able to connect that to an encounter. Samotnud, will we be able to name the NPCs in an encounter, i.e. Adam the Orc? Yes, that is part of what we'd like to do. Please don't kill Adam the Orc, but yes, for instance, when I'm dungeon mastering, a lot of the time I will use designators, and I've seen many other people do this where someone's attacking orc number 1 or orc number 3, and I say, describe this orc for me. And they say, well, his tusks are way bigger than any of the other orcs, or whatever. And I call that guy Tusk, right? And so, yes, the idea would be that you could do that on the fly. I'm going to have to speed up here. We're going to have to stop on encounter builder questions because we got some other things to cover. I'm very sorry. We'll see if we have any time at the end to come back. So real quick on upcoming, we've got content management that's upcoming. And the first phase of this is whitelisting and blacklisting sources at the campaign level. And technically this one is in progress, especially from a conceptualizing standpoint. I could have shown the mocks, much more high fidelity mocks of the content management right now, because we actually have high fidelity mocks for that at this point. And we're going to get into that right when we come back, from the holiday break here. Mobile beta, of course, it's a big priority for us to add the character sheet into the native mobile app. So we are, soon to be working on getting that together, and we'll have more details on that later. And we are going to be introducing, this is something that a lot of the team members are really hip to the jive with. I admit I'm not much of a Discord user. But many people on our teams want an official Discord server for D&D Beyond. And so we're empowering them to do that. So we're going to have a new way to connect with the community. You'll have some access. We'll have some subscriber only, channels and all of that in Discord. And so no timelines or anything for that yet, but it is being worked. and we'll have more to share on that soon. As I've talked about before, we've got accessibility updates, the character builder overhaul. Monster builders now hit this list because that would be next for the challenges team. But again, the encounter builder has got some road in front of it. So please don't think that this is coming out, first thing in January. We've got to get into that alpha, and we've got to get that in a good place. And then Homebrew revamp. We want to do a lot more with our homebrew section. We have not been incredibly happy with how that currently is, because it really is just slapping a slightly prettier face on our internal tools that we use. And we want to do more with that as we get into 2019. So upcoming schedule, this is important. So remember that today at noon Pacific time. So what is that? Is that like in, let's see, 2 hours or something like that? Maybe I'm doing that right. Yeah, 2 hours. Jingles Hearth is coming. And so this is going to be a one-shot with DM Amy Vorpal, Pat Rothfuss, Todd Kenrick. Other people are going to be playing in this. It's all over the Twitter thing. So go out there and check that out. It'll be a fun one-shot, holiday-themed one-shot. And then the Twitch schedule for our holiday break, regular programming through December the 13th, which means that we have one more episode of each show. All right. So I'm going to talk to you one more time next week on Thursday morning, and then that will be all of our Twitch programming for this year. The teams are going to take a little bit of a break, and we will be back the week of January the 7th. I'm going to give away one legendary bundle today. We're not going to be able to do this every week, or otherwise we're going to give away way too many of these things. But it is almost Christmas or Hanukkah or anything else that you might be celebrating out there. So we're going to give away a legendary bundle. You have to type something in chat. You have to let me know that you exist, that you're a real thing. And let's see how this goes. All right. So we're going to give this away in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is tough. Lol Seraptor, maybe. Let's see. Let me get a type it to me in the thing. Will, my producer, and I will make sure that I so Lolceraptor. Yeah, Lolceraptor. Congratulations. You won a legendary bundle. Congratulations on that. All right, so from there, let's see. Any other questions? I've got 2 minutes. I'm going to answer questions as they have come in here. Let's see. Ikagua. Will there be support for adding effects such as haste and slow spells? Definitely not part of the encounter builder, but that will be something when we get into temporary effects with the full-on combat initiative tracking system. CKane 1989. How will this work on tablets, phones, etc.? That's a great question, one that we have some pretty good answers for, but it would be really tough for me to get into it. But as with everything, this will be fully responsive. Any of our stuff works on any kind of device that's very important for us. The encounter builder would be no different. Dagaba46. How was your PAX Unplugged experience? How was the community love at your booth? It was all wonderful. PAX Unplugged series. This year's PAX Unplugged might be my favorite PAX that I have ever been to, and it's one of the favorite conventions that I've ever been to. It was much bigger than it was last year. It was ran in a very, very good way, maybe except for the security lines, when you're getting in. But once you were in that thing, it was incredible. And it was wonderful to run into so many fans of D&D and D&D Beyond. And it was great to have that AL character creation station. We're going to continue to do things like that. The roleplay roulette was complete insanity, so that was a lot of fun to take part in that. So thank you for asking. It was wonderful. Elwarius, is there a future where DDB can be used as a platform to distribute translations, Spanish translation. Yes, we are working on this. I don't have time to go into it too much more now because we're at the top of the hour. But yes, we are working really hard to try to figure out how to get translations delivered, and we will have more to share on that as we get into next year. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Really appreciate it. Hope you guys have a good one. We'll see you next week.